Okay.
Right.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Is There Room for Me? I'm Deinye, and I have a few new people in this room with me. So, first, we have our new co host, Lemuel. And then we also have a very, very, very special guest and our very first guest ever onto this podcast. Just introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Ife.
Yes.
Hi, Fair.
And he's there, like we're in here. And then obviously we have Enela here still. And we also have, in case you hear a new voice, we have a friend from church, David. You probably won't see his face, but you might hear his voice at some point. Yeah, so what do we do? Yeah, we talk about hard-hitting questions relating to all things Christianity, God, kind of like loosely following the theme of our home church, my father's house here in Ottawa. This is there room for me? So, first, I guess like we can catch up.
For sure.
What's been going on?
Catch up.
How was January, February, March? How was your March?
March. March was cool. Went to Toronto. Had a few conferences to attend.
Oh, yeah.
Came with me actually. So it's like
Yeah, we did. It's this. I don't know if this is like the right place to bring this up, but
I'm laughing already.
it's funny because like I went to Toronto with Lemuel, and I didn't go for any of the conferences. So like I was just like in the house.
that's another typical of.
That's like me. Just and so like I drove all like 4 hours to Toronto to just like not do
Were
anything.
you working? Like, did you take days off?
No, I was working, but like he was also working.
I was also working
Like
and taking some.
the conference was like usually in the evening.
Why didn't you go to the conference?
Well, for the first night, I was sick because he passed his flu to me.
Oh yeah, I was also sick in the month of March. Yes, I was also sick in the month of March.
And then for the second night, he didn't like give me proper heads up on the dress code. So like I wasn't prepared.
Okay.
So yeah, but then that was fun. We got to see his sister for a couple days. So that was really nice. But I also just hijacked Lemon's catch up. What else happened in March?
No, I didn't catch up. I was sick, so I don't know what it was. Flu, fever, took me out. Had to take some Korean soup to sort of
Kimchi
recover.
for sure.
Kimchi chicken.
What
He
was
actually
that?
had
Kimchi what?
kimchi soup.
Was that what I took?
No, you
No, I took gamjatam.
You took
The
gablega and
tofu
soft
soup.
tofu soup. So sumdu, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I'm not a tofu person, but
It's so food tasting.
like nothing.
Why did it take the taste of this soup?
That's what I said.
But the issue is, it's the soup with something that does not taste like anything inside there. So you're like, and it melts in your mouth. I actually confused tofu with like a whole egg also in the soup.
It is very egg-like.
I'm like, all right, so
Yeah.
yeah, but all good now, recovered. Life's good. But yeah, Toronto was fun. I don't know if I'm used to Toronto life because driving from my sister's place to the conference, it's like every place was just far from outside of Toronto. It's like 1 hour drive here.
Yeah.
And everybody was driving so Toronto like crazy. Snow was also there.
Yeah, like it randomly snowed like quite a bit on, was it Friday?
Yeah, Friday was snowy, caused a bit of traffic. Sometimes the rush hour traffic is like 2 hours just stuck. Well,
You know, it was also like so hilarious for me. Like, we're all super excited about how winter like didn't technically really come. But then like literally like on the heels of that is, guys, if we're in Canada and the winters are getting more tame, should we be worried or should we be excited?
You know, an environmental science professor talking about how there might be like, not like a drought, but like water conservation warnings this summer because we didn't get as much snow as we normally do, so we didn't get as much water as we normally do in Ottawa.
Yeah, and then like last summer, like with all the fires in Northern Ontario, that was a thing. Cause like I know in the West, in the States, like in California, they have wildfires like quite a bit, and it's so interesting for me because like some of my coworkers live in Vancouver, and they talk about how just like normal it is for them to get the smoke from the forest fires in California, and I'm just like, this is just like a summer like event for y'all.
Smoke from.
Yeah. So like when the wildfires happen in California, like the winds blow the smoke up into Vancouver sometimes, and that's just like a thing.
I mean, we got the
that
smoke from
happens.
Quebec last summer.
But
But
Yeah,
Quebec
but,
is
like-
close to Ottawa, California.
yeah,
Yeah,
true.
but then like also like we also like we don't get wildfires
Yeah.
in Ontario or like even in Quebec. They get wildfires in Alberta,
That's true.
but like for us it was so new. And then remember like you went down to New York.
New York and they covered it.
And that was a thing. So guys, I don't know. She's like, I don't know, recycle.
Let's pray against the war.
Hey, let's pray that we can have a good climate and also a warm weather together. How about that?
Because like I mean, there are also places in the world where like they have warm weather. Canada is just like not one of those places you should expect.
About.
Yeah.
Ask me about my water.
Special guest.
I turned 22.
Hey.
That was the highlight of my year so far. Turning 22. I'm one of those people, like, I make a big deal about my birthday.
As you should.
Yeah, I love celebrating my birthday. I love getting older. Yeah, so I turned 22 in March. So I took like 2 weeks off of like school. No, that's a different.
Hey, I was like,
That's a
to reflect on 22.
Yeah, too hard.
Did it feel different when you?
Yes, I feel more mature. I feel wiser. I feel taller. What else? I feel more adult. I don't know.
That was good.
I've been looking forward to 22 for a bit.
You know what's so funny? Like a funny thing that I heard that like it's like super hard for me to grasp is just the fact that like the year you turn is like marks the end of the year.
So let me think about what you just said.
So like you turn
Oh.
22, like it means
This
like
is
you've
the end of your 22nd year
yeah.
on Earth.
So I'm
Oh,
starting my 23rd year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in Korea, the birthdays are earlier.
Yeah.
Like once you're born, you're one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like more true
Uh-huh.
than
I mean, to be fair, once you're born, you're 9 months old already. So you're like pretty much
23 one.
yeah.
one.
Interesting.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
So like when I realized that, I'm like, oh, so I'm actually 28.
Ew.
Let's not talk about ages, you know. Yeah, it's like some of us we are wise and young.
Jeez
Nowadays.
Louise, like no, actually, that's not something I like to think about. So, Enela, let's get into icebreakers, please.
Okay, since everyone has given us a breakdown of their week, the first icebreaker would be what is your this is not relating to anything, just a random thought of mine. What's your biggest intrusive thought?
Biggest intrusive thoughts.
I get so sad. I'm like,
My biggest intrusive. Oh, an intrusive thought.
Okay, let me start. Let me see if you guys would top mine. I could drive in and they just opening the candle and my hand is still on the. I'm just opening the candle. I just do it.
And they're driving with the car door open.
You know, like sometimes I think about that too.
I'm like, God,
Sometimes, but then for me, it's like I'm not driving up in the passenger seat, and it just opens, and like on the highway.
oh my god.
Oh boy,
Sorry.
those are intrusive.
But then I feel like mine is actually like very. The more I've spoken to people about it, the more like common I find it is. It's like I'm driving and I see like a pedestrian, and this is probably like GTA me, Grand Theft Auto.
You want to hit her?
But I'm just like, imagine if my hand just like, just like
Those are intrusive.
Literally
bro.
crime.
That's expiring.
Time.
I mean, all of these are crimes. I'm opening the
That's why
door.
it's intrusive because it never happens. Or like, and there's like oncoming traffic, and I'm also driving,
And
and like we're
you're
going at like 80 or 90. And just like, imagine if my hand just like turns into.
I mean,
Mine is just jumping from like tall buildings. Like if I'm ever in a tall building and then I'm looking out the window or walking over a bridge, I'm like, What if I just
What if he's slippery and he's like,
in my mind I always survive because I'm like, oh, I'm so athletic. Under my feet. From the test,
I've heard so much things like, oh, what if God gave me the ability to fly wide? I'm the one supposed to figure it out by myself. Let me just try it out.
Just fun. Oh no, actually, never mind. It's
no, the only thing I'm thought about is if I'm on vacation and I couldn't swim, what if I could actually swim and just dive? I see everybody jumping up and like,
and then you now jump and realize that she still can't swim.
I still can't swim and I'm like shouting, help, 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 help.
Grandma can't swim now, but
I've learned how to swim a bit. Yeah. I went, I was like a grown man when kids were swimming also. But I went to the community, is it called the community center? I think, yeah, the one in Steensville, yeah, they have like, you say you have to register for like swim classes. But you have to catch them early because when they release like summer swim classes, you have to just be there like April 1st or so. Like, because once they release, it literally gets booked up. So,
any more questions, Isaiah?
My second question is, who is someone from the Bible that you just want to see, that you wish was still alive to just see? Like, you don't have to tell us their story, just someone from the Bible that you just
Like you want to see from afar?
no,
Or like interact
wish was
with
still alive, like interact with, help to hear their story from.
their perspective? Huh?
that's a deep one.
Jesus.
That's not Jesus.
That's actually like Jesus, like
Yeah.
Jesus. What's that mean? In the Bible,
We have 4 books about him.
Yeah, so it's like you probably already know a lot. I mean, a lot of the books are repeated, but still. I mean, I just read Daniel, so Daniel is who's fresh in my mind right now. I think he's really cool. No, I think he was a really fascinating, like, person, human being, and I think it'd be cool to meet him because I feel like we all know like the lion's den, whatever. But I wasn't aware of the later chapters where he gets the revelations. And those revelations were so, like, scary and vivid. So I would like to talk to him about how he did, like how did he manage the nightmares and stuff after that. True. I think it's very interesting, like, yeah. That's actually a really good one.
Who would I like to meet? For me, it's classic Paul. I don't know. I have to go classic Paul for.
I don't think God wants to meet
I think Paul would make me cry.
Same. I don't think God wants to meet Paul.
Like, you'd be like, stop doing this, stop doing this.
Yeah, like he's like so. I'm just like, can you say it softly?
No, me, I'll definitely like to meet Paul just because. For me, it's just the drastic turn, and I don't know if like from him being like such a zealous Jew to being a follower of Christ. I actually just want to talk about his conversion like 10,000 times to make sure that like what the story was in detail, and yeah, I don't know. Thought that would be cool.
Huh? Not like it's too head. What? There is nobody from the Bible that was. I met them. I feel like maybe like somebody like Peter might be an interesting person to just like hear about. Like just like hearing about his. How was it in the moment when you realized that you had just renounced Jesus? Like what happened, and the fact that like Jesus was the one that came back to him. He didn't come out and be like, "Oh, I was just joking. I was lying. I actually knew him." Like just like, and then. I wonder how much that interaction or like that event in his life like changed his trajectory. Because like even before then, Jesus had already told him that the church will be built on him. But then he goes and does this. How can like how did just I feel like maybe like hearing that story may or may not give like another opening into like give me like I guess more of an appreciation or a deeper understanding of the grace of God.
You're you just actually trigger somebody I actually want to meet that's not poor. Maybe Mary Magdalene or whoever the face maybe was at that tomb. I want to meet everyone, interview them, and just talk to them about what like how like it's just like how did you feel like when you open your tomb and oh shucks, no one is here. One day, like, who are the guards there? What did they tell you about what happened? Did you just run back to Peter and then they came? Or even the Roman guards that were guarding the tomb, like, just even chat with them.
Wasn't it like angels?
Judas, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to really talk to Judas. He was
Like it's our signs.
betraying our Lord and Savior.
I mean, like Jesus did feel bad after.
Judas felt
Yeah.
bad. Oh, I thought you said Jesus felt bad.
Judas did like he felt bad after. But like I don't know, man. I feel like he was just like negative vibes.
She was. Let's say she was one of the 12. He was
Yeah, that he left.
and yet so far. So I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because like it's like for somebody that was so close, but then your heart still have not changed. I will not feel safe around you.
No, but it's also like, like sometimes like we just all have like that kryptonite, like that one thing that
Yeah, we're
maybe
doing
it
it.
was just lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then like he allowed because everybody else did have a kryptonite. Money was his, but unfortunately he wasn't able to rule over it.
Or just even like,
Just that-
I mean, he probably realized, because I was second guessing the fact that maybe he didn't understand like who he was with, but maybe that's why he was like, you know what, I can't help myself. I just literally was the one that caused the Son of God to die, or that betrayed the Son of God. It's
What you said about Peter and not Judas, because this week I've been thinking about guilt and because you know how sometimes when you mess up so bad and you feel like this overwhelming sense of guilt. So like how do you like just that journey from guilt to and unworthiness to because you're like you feel so guilty like you can't even ask for repentance because you're like this is like proper mess up.
Yeah.
So like how do you go from that state of like guilt into like back into
Acceptance.
yeah and then yeah.
What I do when I do something like that, which is I just don't talk a lot. It's in my heart too. Like, I don't talk to God about, but he knows it's in my heart, so I'm like, just chill. Let me gather my thoughts up. I want
let me
I would like to talk to you, but let me just let him die. Then I will now come. But it's taken like about 2-3 days, and then when I realized that you need to like stop breaking God's heart with these things that you do. It's the guilt to kind of just.
It's so heavy, yeah.
I call mine the shower of shame. So you just get to the shower.
Are you crying?
I'm like, okay,
for sure.
let's start working back to where we were.
Where we were. No, actually, showers they help too. It's like because you feel like it's like baptism. It's like just come out and
Girl, it's not sad.
You haven't?
Money's face waiting.
I've never been baptized, and I don't know.
It's just like
I feel like maybe it's obviously like you be part of being a Christian, but like, am I I don't want to start a conversation, but like, am I a lesser Christian for not being baptized? Am I don't know. When I think about it, I'm like, I've been baptized when I'm showering. Oh, geez.
I'm sorry.
but no one is. You see, well, anyways, I was going to say, well, no one sees you being baptized. But anyways,
Yeah, because like baptism is supposed to be like a
public.
public declaration. But then I don't know if that makes you less of a Christian that you haven't been baptized.
But I think if you've had the opportunity,
Now you ask, I think we were registering for baptism this summer. I think someone made an announcement for that, like this summer we're going to do at Muniz Bay.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the spots.
Like a good service, maybe a service at Muniz Bay would have baptism. So.
Venice Bay, is it not that beach that is really beach?
Hey, we all got baptized.
We did. Okay. We all did. We all did.
That's very good.
The water is still there.
Clever.
Girl.
Okay, that's the end of our icebreaker.
Nice.
I hope you all enjoyed that. So today, they just pass it on to me. Who's this? Shoot.
Do you want us attach it against the kids? But okay, so today's conversation, we're going to be talking about meltdowns. And just like thinking about different people in the Bible that have had meltdowns or had like breakdowns in their journey or just like in their life and how they have overcome it. So I think, I don't know, like maybe we should actually start with ourselves. Does anyone want to share like a breaking moment in their life? And this also is open to Daniel,
David.
David, David,
That's a nice one.
Daniela. We're going to share Daniel. That's right.
Okay, good recovery.
It was open to David and Daniela. Has anybody had like a breaking point or like a breakdown where like it literally feels like this is the end, and have you overcome it? If so, how?
Now,
It's going to be sufficient.
I'll just open the floor for you guys while you're thinking. In university, I had my first real battle with depression in second year. And I sat on the floor of my bedroom asking myself, what is the purpose of life? Because I had just failed a midterm that I studied for. And I failed another one the previous week.
Oh no!
It's like, I'm not meant to be here. Like, my parents are spending millions and I'm bombing tests.
Oh no!
So, yeah, I ate a whole pack of cereal and a carton of milk and stayed in my room for like 48 hours.
Well,
And I came out with the revelation that I can't rely on myself. I have to rely on God. So do my best up to a certain point and then leave me out close to God. So that's the quote I got from that is, if I can't kill myself, I'll be fine. Which is a bit depressing. So
kill myself will be
if I can't kill myself, I will be fine. And I know I can do the first thing.
okay, but
So there you go.
One or the other. Anybody pick the other.
I can't do
Thank
the
God.
first one, so the second one will always be the case.
That's actually so deep.
yeah.
So I'll pass it on to you guys.
Breakdown.
I'm still thinking about.
I think I had a breakdown. I'm not dramatic in any way, so I actually don't know if I've had breakdowns or not. Yeah, I think I had a breakdown while I was wrapping up university, I think. And I think when I was going to Toronto, I'm not sure if I actually, we had for me, it was just, I went to a new church and I just felt overwhelmed with just the atmosphere that was created. And then for some reason, I just broke down. I was not sure why I was breaking down at that moment. I feel like everything they were saying was just like tearing down like walls. And I didn't know I had walls up. And I actually don't know why I was breaking down. Like, it was literally the only thing I can remember was the pastor saying something about God meeting you at the middle. And I was just like, that's it. And
So it was like a worship experience and you were just like,
I was just like, yeah, like maybe there was my life. I think for me, it was probably just the fact that my life was at that point just feeling like not a rocket ship, more like I don't know if you played Angry Birds, where instead of going up,
Oh, and then you start falling down.
so you're just and then it's but I didn't know how much the fact that it was just like this, because I had stayed there, I was supposed to wrap up earlier in the year, but I had another extra course to finish up in September and December, and I'm like, okay, thinking about my career, what I really wanted to do, even though I had an idea of, honestly, I was already on path or on track to get into software engineering, was still just understanding if I want to really be an entrepreneur, if I want to work, or if I want to go further in education. But the fact that education looks really bad for me was, it didn't really look really bad. It just looked not, again, like a rocket ship at that time. So yeah, them like creating that atmosphere and God using the pastor to just speak to me just made me feel like, man, I'm stressing about like trying to get to the end. Maybe that's where God, yeah, and him saying that, look, at this stage of where you are, the confused stage, like God is going to meet you there. And I was like, man, that was crazy. But I feel like it was a lot more dramatic in my mind, but I didn't feel it that way.
But we believe, of course, we believe.
Okay, I can go next. I think I definitely have mini breakdowns throughout the year, but that's just like from like overwhelmed because of school, rugby, church. But okay, I think that was a big shift in my life. Definitely not a Saul to Paul shift, but I feel like there's like AD and whatever, like before death and after, like in Jesus' time. I think that was like after, before MFH and after MFH, like Ife before MFH and Ife after MFH, and there was a breakdown in the middle that led to her change. I think just who I was, personality wise, completely different. My relationship with God, completely different. Because with MFH, I wouldn't say I was like a good proper Christian before MFH. I think MFH really created a space of necessity where it was like if I didn't do the work, no one else would. And at first, like having to do so much, like just juggling all of that plus high school, hormones, whatever, and everything, and like just my future. I just remember having like a super big like breakdown because I was just so overwhelmed with everything. And I don't know how I came out the other side, but I did, and I'm here now. But yeah, I just sometimes I'll sit down and just think about like pre MFH versus post, and I guess
I can just show you a picture pre MFH.
yeah, that's a chicken. Yeah, so we thank God for that. But how do I overcome like my mini breakdowns usually? It's just, oh, I'm really bad at this. You know how like when you're going through something, people are like, oh, talk to God first and then everybody else. The first person I call is my mom. And I'll call Mommy Anu Ori, not Phoebe. I'll go down the family and then I'm like, oh, let me pray, like let me ask God.
That's real. That's real. Like I realized that, man, you've hit all the doors and it's still not changing. It's like
Changing.
it's like
Yeah.
and God shows up at that point. Eh?
I don't know, man. Like for me, I feel like for me, I can't think of one single like breakdown moment in my life, but I've definitely had like, I don't know if it's like the word is like revelation moments or like realization moments.
Realization.
Because I guess like similar to the BC and AD from like your life, like I think there was like for like my entire life I grew up obviously like not obviously I grew up as a pastor's child. So like I had a lot of head knowledge about religion and God. I also I would say like I for sure believed in God. I believed in God to the point that like I was afraid of God. I was afraid of like I was so exposed to like spirituality that it became a fear of mine. And similar to it kind of like got to a point where I'm also besides about like I'm also like the type of person where like I'm like a I'm like a by the books, like I'm also like rule follower type of person. And so like even though it was hard and it was like a lot, my brain did not register it as being hard. It just registered it as this is just like how you live as a Christian and this is just what you're supposed to be doing. But then like I could feel it like in my body of just like me constantly being tense and just like like walls up, always on my guard. And then I remember like going to a church and hearing, even though like it's funny because now going, if I go back to that church, I probably wouldn't be impacted the same way I was the first time around. But like I really believe that like God in like meeting each of us exactly where we are, like in our journeys, and like bringing us to himself in like whatever different like path that he chooses for us. For me, it was like taking me to a place and like hearing his heart for me, and hearing like that I don't have to be afraid, that like his love for me supersedes everything else, and I can come to him like with boldness. It's like almost it was a breakdown that happened over the course of like 2 years. Literally. And then now like looking back and coming out, I'm like a lot more confident in like who I know God to be. And even if like I can't think of Bible verses, or like I can't quote exact scriptures. Obviously, like I know stories and I know like not necessarily in abstract. I know themes, but then like for me, the comfort now is like knowing like the personality of God.
Yeah.
And like now knowing that like I can share something and be like, no, this is not something God would say. Because I know who God is now. Or like I have a better understanding, a closer like relationship with God. So like that breakdown for me was just, and like that obviously like that happened over the span of the time I was in that church, and like coming out of it from now, and it's also teaching me something else that I did not that I didn't know before, which was like God actually knows
Knows
me,
you fully, yeah.
like as an individual.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing, but like it's crazy to like fully internalize. But yeah.
I was going to like because they really gave me, and you also told me something yesterday about work breakdowns that probably like made me realize at work sometimes I've struggled with like really crazy tasks that is like, man, like can this like I like challenging tasks, but sometimes it can get so crazy and overwhelming that I'm just going to like, can this be over already, or I can't really overcome. So I've also had work breakdowns, like where it's like I can't figure out what is going on at work at this point, and I need help. And that's just like regular at work, I guess, or like at school or something. And
I love hearing people talk about, especially people who grew up in Christian homes. I love hearing them talk about where they went from like God as my parents to my God. Like
Yeah.
that transition. I love hearing it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild because like I would also hear people talk about God doing it for them, and just like the joy that they like when people give testimonies and like, oh, you're clean it to someone else's testimony and that God now doing it for you. Like me hearing it, it's crazy because now like I understand what they were feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
and have you had breakdown moments?
Huh. 45 year break. Yeah, hoping. Like, I was thinking about it and I'm very lucky. It was, oh yeah, we since for
Yeah.
3 actually, and it was just, I think, September or October or so. I had committed this bad sin.
Cinema and yeah, bro.
I keep running to keep to a thank you.
So
Like, it was bad. And then, like, I just went, and the next day, I felt bad, but like, the feeling bad did not hit me like that until I went to my friend's house and I was just coming back and then it was, I just started crying. Like, I remember Billings Bridge 44. And I just started crying and I was like, how would I find myself in this situation? Like I knew that I was crying, but like I was like, tears are popping out. Then I went to my house, and then when I got home, couldn't even put my bag, my clothes, my jacket was still on, and I usually remove my jackets like immediately again. I just went inside my room and I just like Nelson, I just cried. Like I didn't even pray, but that was like a prick that I feel so bad.
It's hard to pray after
Exactly.
really messing up with your house.
Like, I don't even want, like, I don't know. There's sometimes I'm like, God, do you see my house? I really don't want to talk to you now. I'm talking to you now. You know what?
Yeah.
So, like, I just chill. Like, I'm coming
And I
back.
think he loves that. Like, I think God loves it when we're just like real with him and when we're like, I don't really feel like talking right now.
Yeah, the guilt is real.
Yeah. It's hard. Like, I think about like how here is a question. So like when you do something to offend your parents and you feel really bad about it, how does that interaction go?
After this, I get
Like if you feel guilty, do you like not want to speak to your parents until you feel less guilty?
if I do something.
I'm actually only
bad,
asking that because that is what I do like in real life. I don't like I if I feel really bad about something, I feel so inadequate to the point that like I feel like my presence like I don't deserve to be in your presence, and so like I take myself away.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if people like normal people do that to like people.
I
other
definitely
people.
avoid to like if I know that I really like hurt my parent, I would just like I'll try not to be around them so that I give them the time to
Yeah.
not cool down but to and I won't go back around them until I see that opening
Yeah.
that it's okay for me to come back. I don't know if like that's what they want, but that's what I do for sure. Like I'll avoid until because you're right, because I feel like I feel so bad that I'm like after I've done that to you and I want to burden you with my presence.
Exactly. I'm like my story. Like, what's story going to do?
Just leave.
like I mean, now I think about it, it doesn't make sense. But as a kid, it makes a lot of sense to not want to, because if I walk into the room, it's almost like they can already see that I did this and they're about to like talk about something I'm trying to hide that I did.
Yeah.
Right. So, but now I'm pretty sure, and even if they know and we've talked about it, like, oh, hey, why did you, let's say, break something without letting me know? Why did you try to hide this? Or why did you come back late? I will address the issue or talk about how like that's not the right thing to do and we shouldn't do it next time. Coming back doesn't seem like the least I can do or the most I can do is just come back and be quiet and sit down and not even want to like engage with their presence or not want to contaminate their presence. I just be quiet.
This feels like it's contaminated.
Yeah, just contaminate it because I will just be quiet and just be like, hey, over time or over the next couple of hours, and maybe we will just become back to cordial. Or it might take a day or two, but I'll just sit down there if me and Dave are again, I'm just going to just sit down there.
But you won't like physically distance yourself.
Not like I won't physically distance, but even if I take it like try to like soak it in the fact that maybe I've offended her or my parents, when I'm done analyzing what we just addressed, and maybe like I was a bit proud when we were talking about it. I'm like, okay, how do I come back into like presence? Yet like after like such a because well, I addressed the conversation. It hurts. There was hurt or there was offense taken, and I've said I'm sorry, but there's still like I don't know if I can say, hey, how far after like that? Oh, sorry, it doesn't feel like I'm just going to go away, right? And then later on, even if I'm coming back, I'm not just going to still come with an expectation. But that's why I think God is like way like I can't even understand why he's just like he's way like more perfect and like even like 100% more than our parents or really like people that we're in a relationship with, because for him you can pretty much go back with because he literally like he doesn't count it anymore, versus like for us we can't but like still feel the weight of the offense. I'm no longer mad. I'm no longer holding it in my heart as a grudge that you did this because we've talked about it, but I'm also like my emotions are not like all happy now. It's like it's still weighty, right? So I just come back, chill, sit down, and then over time something can come up and we just start talking about something different that takes it.
Do you know that I realized recently? You know how like if I offended you on Monday and we're okay, I apologize. On Tuesday, I might still say, oh, sorry about that thing. And on Wednesday, I might still go, yeah, sorry about that. I think I used to do that with God too, where I'd ask for forgiveness. I think a part of me didn't really believe that, like, once you
Once
ask
was
for
enough.
forgiveness, it's enough. So I'll do like, God, I'm so sorry for this. Maybe the next time I pray, and oh yeah, and I'm really sorry.
Sorry about it.
Sorry. So, and I was like, how annoying. Not annoying for him.
I saw like a
But, like,
video concerning
yeah.
that too, and how the angel was tired of it.
Yeah, like,
The angel was trying to even remind.
That's
God was like,
my
what's he
God.
was talking about? The angel was not trying to remind. Remember that he was like, that thing yesterday.
that's
Like,
fine.
it was just yesterday, blessed.
yeah. Once is really enough. It's like if it's a really fat sin, you have
Feel like really guilty about. So, like for me, more recently, it's been not reading my Bible every day or praying every day, and like in the days like when I feel like or like I realize that I've fallen off of like my routine of reading the Bible and praying every day. When I realize, and it's so weird how like like it's like a sinking feeling of I've messed up. Oh my God, I have messed up. I feel I've done this again, and it's like worse when it's like a repeating thing. It's like I'm back here again. I've done this again.
Bring it.
So for me, like what I tend to do now is like in like I'm just like God, I'm here, and I will just like sit in silence, and like we'll just be here together, because like in my mind I'm like I have no words, there's no excuse, there's nothing I can say again. Like I don't even feel worthy enough to say I'm sorry. So like, but then I still trust, and this is like all going on in my head. It's like I still trust that you love me, and I still believe that you love me, even though like it's me that is not like there's a disconnect that is preventing me from like fully receiving that love. But like the best I can do right now is just to sit down here until I can start talking.
I
So
wonder,
we'll just be here.
would we be better off like if we also focus our energy the same way we focus on our wrongs, on our growth, right? Like when we're all of a sudden doing something like, oh, like David used to talk about his trick on his Bible app, like when you're doing something good, right? Like it's like, oh man, I used to struggle with this now. I'm already good. Man, like I'm not tapping myself on the back, but I'm just like glad that God has like walked me through this. And I think for me that sort of switches a bit of makes a mental shift for me, because if I'm appreciating God for just how He's grown me, I'm also like confident in how He will grow me in every other area that like we're being real with. So because if I just focus on just the wrongs, like, and I never give space to focus on like the growth that has happened, like it can be like this whole process where like self-defeating and you never get out of that. For me, the mental shift has sort of started happening where I don't really focus on like I'm being real and transparent to God about everything, but I'm not just carrying it. I'm trying to also carry, hey, like, oh, this is like I'm now away like morning and night. I'm actually checking in and praying. Morning and night, I'm actually reading my Bible. Maybe morning and night, I'm also being a lot more generous at church. God has given me a lot more grace. I used to struggle with generosity. Maybe God has given me a bit more grace. Or I used to struggle with like different parts of my life just being separate. I find like I'm able to just do it a lot more easily. I remember when this was just like hard for me to do, right? So like trying to also put that same stress that we put on when we mess up on to when we actually do really good.
I love that, because I think I've also been working on being more real with God. So something like a conversation I'll have with God. I'm giving you guys a sneak peek. Like, God, remember when I used to do this? And we'll go, ha 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 ha. So it's another way of like thinking and celebrating our growth. It's like, oh wow, God, remember when I used to lie about everything?
Exactly.
I will like laugh about it and move on. But yeah, and also Daniel, about what you said about just sitting down in silence and just going back to being real with God. One thing I started doing often, not often, but lately is going like, sometimes it's not every day you feel like praying and whatever. And before I would just like ignore that feeling and still not pray, but like just like push it aside. But I'm learning to go like, God, I really don't feel like praying right now, and I don't know why.
That's what
And even in that conversation, it
Yeah.
leads into prayer.
Prayer.
I'm learning to be less packaged for God, and I'm learning to be more real, more raw.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I started to see God as more my friend, as my father, and also like my friend. And
Yeah.
I talk to myself a lot. I do, but now I'm also learning to talk to God the same way I talk to myself.
Yeah, because like when you think about even people in the Bible, when they pray,
Math.
like we call their conversations with God prayer. Because like when God speaks to them, like think about like somebody like Abraham, for example, like God speaking to him and God speaking to Moses, it was like having a conversation with them. And so it's like he speaks, they reply. It's like a
Conversation.
it's like a backup. It's not like it's not necessarily like the Lord's prayer
No.
where
Like we're saying,
you're
Heavenly
like,
Father. And so, like,
where it's not like a corporate like formal like event where, and unfortunately like we don't get to hear a lot of Jesus's prayers that he would do like every day, like when he go up to the mountains, but like what we did hear in like when he prayed for Lazarus to wake up, it's like it's that type of like it wasn't like in my name, in the name of Jesus. Thank you Lord for today type of like energy.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, it's so real, like being real and being honest with God and just like saying things like as they come.
Yeah.
As they come into your head and then, like speaking it out. And the beauty of God, and like the beauty of the Spirit of God, like renewing your mind is like it is that connection that starts to change your heart, and like you keeping the connection and and like talking to God and you listening and like receiving from Him is changing your heart, and then you're speaking out, and so it like just keeps going, and that is how like your heart becomes changed. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard because of a lot of preconceived notions that we have about God.
And just habits.
Yeah.
That's a correct.
But speaking of people in the Bible, I kind of wanted to touch on a couple examples of just like people that have had breakdowns. And one interesting one that I want to start with, it's kind of different from like where we've been going, but King Nebuchadnezzar. So like he came from a different angle where like he believed he was the greatest. He did not believe that God, like he was subject to God, and God showed him that he was in fact subject. Is there like anything that we can we just first start with the obvious, like actually two obviouses. Okay. That's the right word. Like the writing on the wall.
I did it.
was that Nebuchadnezzar?
Was that Nebuchadnezzar?
I think it was Belshazzar.
Oh, never mind. Okay, so then it's one obvious.
But Nebuchadnezzar was the fire, like the Hebrew boys and the fire.
But actually, really, yeah, but that's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm thinking about.
Animal.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the animal, but like that's not the same story.
Okay.
The
that's
animal
what
is the animal.
Yes.
Yeah, but the writing on the wall was.
No, I'm saying so the writing on the wall is not the same story.
No, the writing.
Was that not like?
Was Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
We established what story we're talking.
Guys, I read Daniel.
Why don't you tell us?
Because Belshazzar like was the king after Nebuchadnezzar. That,
Oh, okay. So it was in close proximity. That's why,
Yeah.
like, my mind made mistake.
yeah.
So, yeah, Nebuchadnezzar did he really become an animal? And can we like, since you read Daniel,
Quiz.
Stop the show.
let's just like do like a really quick run through of like the story on a high level.
Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar, like you said, he thought he was top
Top dog.
like really just like me, and God was like, really? Let me humble you. He had a dream, right? I think before the whole thing happened, and Daniel tried to warn him. Daniel was like, God is telling you to calm down, to humble yourself, to acknowledge that he is God. And Nebuchadnezzar was like, no. Or like he didn't really heed that warning. And then it happened. I think it was even 7 years. I don't know how long it was.
7 sounds right.
Yeah, but he he went out to live with the beasts of the land. And there's this, it's not a beautiful breakdown, but there's this moment where it's just Nebuchadnezzar finally acknowledging God as God. And then God is like, okay, come back to civilization. But it was pretty crazy because I guess Nebuchadnezzar was literally so hard-hearted and prideful that that's what it took for him to like change his ways. But then there's also beauty in the fact that God loved him so much that he didn't just like
Leave him.
he didn't leave him in that pride. He, as painful as and as ugly as it is for God to humble someone, it's also it's an act of love, grace.
I agree. Actually, I agree because the alternative is worse. And like, I don't know. I don't remember who. Somebody in the New Testament said like, who like it's like that same sentiment of like, it's better for God. It's better for God to not be done with you. Basically, it's better for God to humble you
than
to like wash his hands off you. Basically,
Yeah.
and just like allow you to allow your sin to overtake you. King, who was he king of?
Babylon.
Why did God care about Babylon?
Because they invaded the Israelites. They had the Hebrew boys. They were like the empire. They were like the They were the world power, like the way America, China is. God cares about.
So basically, like God. So I'm saying. So my whole like question here is, this is also on a tangent, but like Babylon was a world power. They had invaded Israel, and now they're ruling.
Yeah, they were ruling. They had invaded a lot of nations, to be actually. Like,
Well, but like God wouldn't care about Israel, I guess.
I mean, and also like we only know about King Nebuchadnezzar because Prophet Daniel wrote about
Yeah.
him, like in
And then like it ended up in the Bible because it's somehow important to like the story.
to the story of Christ. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's very interesting how we only hear about King Nebuchadnezzar because it's just somehow like important to the grand scheme of things, even though he was not the only king to rule Israel. Israel not as a nation but as a people. And God for some reason was like, you're the one that I'm going to save.
God saved it. It's like he got saved in silence. He got saved and then he went and he made a proclamation that everybody had to declare God as God. So maybe God knew that this is the kind of person to do that for me. So let me actually, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense because think about it. If a king that has such autocracy over his people says, "This is who God is," I'm no longer like everybody thought they were bowing down to Nebuchadnezzar because Nebuchadnezzar said, "Bow down to me," right? And this person that is all powerful over a lot of empires has been humbled by an almighty God and coming back to declare that look, there's an almighty God. In fact, let's call him.
I feel, and maybe, but like his own story is he wanted people to worship him.
Yeah,
So I feel like maybe that's why, because like that's like one of the greatest commandments now.
national.
Should I always be very good? But like maybe that's why God really wanted to you.
And I guess it's like, and it's because Israel was supposed to worship him and not their own God.
But also, Israel had kings that didn't want to worship God too. Right? Yeah, Israel had like kings
But
that.
they want them to worship.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
I feel like he was the one that like
yeah.
he made an image for himself. I think he said in chapter 3 where he said that he
He resurrected like a tall.
has set up so the staffs prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, all of that provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up, and they stood before it, and that be proclaimed, blah blah blah.
Like he's good, yeah, but also he really got into his head too much too, like thinking about because for him, think about like the fact if you've conquered like pretty much the Western world, you would think there's nothing else to conquer, like especially like you've destroyed people that quote unquote were called God's people. You've taken over them. You've taken over the Assyrians. You've taken over all of that. As a woman, you'd be like, who is there? There's nothing to take over. You guys just worship because I'm in charge.
I'm him.
And God is like, wait, hold up, hold up.
You're not that guy. I'm chronically on.
In fact, you're not.
But one thing I was going to say about the animal situation is also how possible it is. I actually think it's so possible.
I believe it.
Like
That was
like he could have been like he could have lived with the beast. Like he could have
like
lived in the
him being
forest.
like a him. Like he didn't like transform into an animal. Like he still looked like himself. But
Only could not look at, there's no like the only way you can classify a human is by being a human, right? Where if
I
he's-
mean, like he did not like grow like nails, claws.
I
I think he did because he was in that. He was there for a long time. I'm sure he like.
You know, like you know what I mean? Like I mean, like transform into a werewolf, for example.
No, I don't think he like he was
That's
like
the image I have in
no,
my
no, but I'm saying like he probably did not look as any bit of a human being that you could even like almost like cannibals. How about that? Like if you take a cannibal, I don't know if you
He did not look like a civilized human being. No. But he looks like if a human being like walked out and then saw somebody, like you'd be like, oh, that is a human being that lives in the bush.
I don't know. Like, I've seen cannibals come out once, and they don't look like anything that you can see human being living in bush. They look like something you should run away from. And literally like take off before you help. But like,
Now scared to Google it.
yeah, but
Once I see what I
see what you can.
Cannot honestly.
Like, I mean, the closest you can probably think of, like, you can say yes if that person gets detailed and washed and shaved and like cleaned up. Yeah, that person would
like
venture.
detailed.
But
Detailed. I thought you meant like. Sorry, detailed.
no, I actually meant I meant cat detail. No, they didn't get a tail. No, but I'm saying like it could be as like yeah, well yeah, like they could have been that like he could have been that
Yeah, but
wild.
like if he lived in the forest for,
And he ate
for
like
7
the
years,
and he ate like that.
then yeah, he did not look like a person that's like a regular human, but like he did not look like an actual animal. Like he did not look like a Neanderthal. Like
likely.
Baboons, yeah,
Oh, like a
like
baboon.
the ones that are like
Yeah.
no, but like people don't like
like the orange
The closest
Maybe like
I used to
Tarzan.
know such.
yeah.
chimpanzees. Okay, maybe
He
yeah.
might have looked like a
She might have looked like a gem.
I'm not like an attractive Tarzan. I can't imagine.
Yeah, that is like so unattractive.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's also like details, but it's so interesting how like he lived like an animal. He ate like an animal, and he was alive that long. Like he didn't poison himself.
And well, that's what I'm like.
Grace of God.
Grace of
Like, I feel like
God.
if the plan was for him to die in that state,
He would have
Just child.
easily.
It's easy.
like oh the guy
Easily.
told him say this and he died, we would have probably heard, but like the
Yeah.
story would not. Is there any other person that got humbled like him? Because I mean, turning into an animal,
Oh, it's very.
It's crazy.
like his own was really.
Yeah.
The thing that got humbled, like, oh, I read about one where like the person died. Like Herod, I was reading about Herod. It's like the people were like,
Wait,
this
which
is the
Herod?
voice of the God.
Which Herod?
Herod, there were a lot of Herods. Actually, Herod is a title.
Not the third.
But actually, no, I don't know which of the Herod. But it's not the Herod in Jesus' time. It was the Herod after Jesus' time. That he came out after he had jailed Peter and John, and Peter had escaped. And they were having this whole ceremony of the feast, and the people were like, "This is the voice of the God," and he was wallowing in it, and worms came and just ate him up.
Wait, sorry.
That's a story.
Wait.
In Acts, yeah.
Let's like. Okay, so who said this is the voice of God?
So he came to speak to the people, and the people started worshiping him.
And this is Israel.
Yeah. So the relationship between Herods and Israel are like wild either ways. But yeah, like these were the Jewish people,
Jewish people. Okay.
which were not just. It was all, they were all under the Roman Empire this time around. There was no like
Yeah.
yeah, but they were worshiping. This is, and he was like, yeah, this must be the voice of God.
Who said this
I
one?
think someone in the crowd, one of
The
his like,
crowds, yeah.
and then he like acknowledged her.
And they acknowledged that, and he literally passed out there, and worms ate him.
Just like appeared out of nowhere.
Okay, what is he?
And this happened in Acts.
Yeah.
So this is literally, this is not like,
He just have died and come back and gone.
that is humbling of the highest order. If you ask me.
Humbling though.
That's crazy.
That's humbling you.
That's crazy. Do you guys, this is also like random.
Yeah, animal.
We also like don't have to answer this if this is like very left field. Question is, do you guys feel like the God post resurrection as he is right now, do you think that he gets like loses his temper and like acts the way he flooded the earth and killed everybody? Do you think, like, for example, the thing that happened with that Herod was because, like, we know that God is long suffering, and like there've been a lot of people that have said and done things that are blasphemous, and they don't die. Like, they don't die in such a spectacular way where like it's obvious that like God is like, no. For the most part, God like just like lets people be who they are, and then he brings them to himself, or he leaves them, whatever. I know obviously like more so in the Old Testament where like there are lots of cases where, especially when like the ark was being moved around, like people knew to be very careful around it because things could just go off. But like in the New Testament, for example, like I remember this was actually one of the first interactions I remember having with Lemuel. We're talking about Ananias and Sapphira in like our old church, and like how like this was like post Jesus resurrecting, and they lied and just died on the spot because they lied about something they did not have to lie about. But then like they're not the first people to lie, they're not the last people to lie. So like man of God.
That's why, just bring that God just as
Exactly.
But like do you think like that's it, or are we just like do we just not have enough perspective to understand what's actually going on?
I just feel like it's just another way for us to like understand that sin is bad. Whether you sin every day or you sin just once, like you never know. Maybe somebody can well, I want to use an example, but I think I need to start example. A lot of people would do it for the first time, get pregnant. A lot of people have been doing it since
Pregnancy.
like that's in that situation, like you just don't
Easy as example.
not easy as example. So you just have to be very careful, honestly. Like sin is sin. It's bad, it's bad. Not just because like we don't get the consequences of our actions immediately doesn't mean that it's not that bad,
Yeah.
the person do it and the person dies was like this.
Or like to like use playing God's face, like people would say.
Like
And I don't think God has I don't say God's temper, but I don't know how to say, but he's definitely still the same God.
Yeah.
But now we have grace, we have the Holy Spirit.
You have an advocate.
Yeah,
And so.
and that's so beautiful. So maybe that's why.
Maybe that's
What did she say?
But I guess he's been advocating.
Is that
Yeah,
advocate?
but
What did you
listen.
say? What did you say? I didn't hear what you
Stay
said.
ready, so get ready.
What did you say? I didn't hear what she said.
I said we have an intercessor.
Intercessor.
well, when God flooded the earth, was it did the Bible explicitly say out of anger? Like
And just got so bad, God was like, I'm wiping all of you out.
yeah, well like
Let me restart.
This was the mistake.
let me obviously if you wouldn't have said, oh I made a mistake, let me restart. No, because like God doesn't make mistakes. I feel like
God actually said he repented.
He repented.
He repented of it.
Like, if not for Noah, we really would not be here right now.
Yeah. So like after they came out of the ark, when Noah like set up the altar, and God said like like when you see the rainbow, like it's a reminder. He said like he would repent of
The flood.
the flooding and he would not do it again.
And then, but yeah, like I think it's just like it says we we don't have the full understanding. And I don't know what I was listening to or what audiobook I was listening to. It's like we're living in a house, but we never were in the architect of this house's mind. So we can't even understand why they made a decision to maybe make this certain place like this and this certain place like this, or and that kind of thing, except you were there presently when they were making all those decisions. So you have that full picture. All we have is the house, right? But we just, if we even if we, what we get also in the Bible is like the architectural drawings too of the house, but we don't really get the
Why
mind.
decisions were
Who
made.
do we see? So we can
The
hear
architect.
The architect itself, I mean, like,
That's I think like arguing isn't fun, but you know how people can get really into like deep arguments about why did God do this, why did God do that?
Yeah.
Do we really have free will? All those things. I know people enjoy it, but today it's a bit of a waste of time. It's like we could never
yeah.
really nothing.
Yeah.
We'll never ever be into
We never, but also, the only reason I don't think it's a waste of, like, for me, it makes me appreciate God a lot more.
Okay.
Because, like, the way, like, my own brain works is, if you think about the most artistic person, like, you just think about how you enjoy their music and some, who? Well, like, yeah, if you think about the most artistic person and like the creative decisions they make, let's say in their music or in their movies or in their TV shows, like, sometimes some people might, no, I don't really love this, but you will be like, I really love this. Or someone else is like, I don't understand why they didn't make this character like this. But for them, I'm pretty sure they get a lot of pride in just the way
People debate.
having people just, and they still don't even know 1% of what I'm thinking about. Or having people like look, even with the brain you're debating with, I was the one that, like, I'm giving you reasoning. Like, for Nebuchadnezzar, like, the ability for him to not even reason that human beings don't go into the forest is something that he probably clocked. He's like, wait, all of this time, if somebody decides you no longer have the ability to reason, you literally just run into the forest. And all along I thought I was like I was the end and be all of everything, right? So I think, like, the idea that, like, people are like, God, I feel like, gets worshipped in some sense of glory, that he created human beings that have conscience to argue about the person that gave them the conscience, and they still don't even understand anything outside of the conscience he gave them, right? So I think there's just like like a multi-dimensional glory that's so, and also the difference is still like how we, like, sometimes I think about it, like, I'm pretty sure God gets glory from just everybody thinking about him in different ways, and him just like, you know what, I have a plan that's actually, or think about how Jesus came about and everybody trying to prevent Jesus from coming, or Herod trying to like kill everybody here, or the devil trying to stop like Jesus from being born here, and he's like, bro, like, that's fine, like, you can all be cute, I'm going to bring about Jesus. They're like, okay, I'm going to try to kill Jesus, now he's born, like, they'll find opportunities, like, until I want him to die, you guys will try to kill me, you know. And when it's like, oh yes, we've won, and they're like, well, psych, here's him again, and he comes out, and like, so I think just God, like, being like a greatest artist of all time, gets glory from us just being his creation, and without it, sometimes we use our mouth to be like, oh no, I want to insult God in my mouth. It's like, bruv, you guys are just funny. So like, let me just,
You know what? I heard the other time, like, we were just circulating. I was scrolling on TikTok, and this preacher was saying that, oh, and you guys realize that, you know, all the babies are like 2 years and we do like shows. I mean, Jesus is the only one in his generation.
oh,
You know, when the month be mathing.
So like, I was like, wow, that's nice. And do you know what else I was thinking?
Jesus was at least 2 years older or younger than
That's depressing.
everybody.
What if, like, you know, when they sent out, it wasn't King Herod himself that really took, you know, what did he took?
I don't know.
Swords, I guess.
Swords.
I think he that actually took the sword I killed. What if maybe one of the servants or one of the, what do you call those people? The
The guards, the soldiers, yeah.
guards, what if one of them like had compassion on a particular child and there's just one child out there somewhere?
I mean, child is dead, my people.
Or But that's the same thing happened to Moses, right? Like Pharaoh that sent out ended up like giving
Somebody out that wasn't top. I don't know. But
Not interesting.
And he was in hiding.
audience. But, okay.
That's the beautiful thing about God and Christianity and Jesus. So many ways to think. I love what you
And God is glorified in everything. Even though we don't like ascribe glory to him, because he made all of us, like he takes the glory.
because he is.
Okay, so I want to talk about one more person, two more people. Do we have time still?
yeah, what 1 hour.
7 minutes stop.
Okay, so one person, obviously, like you probably know Paul, but one person that we may not know about is Demas, Paul and Demas. So there's a story in 2 Timothy. Well, not a story. Paul was telling Timothy about a very like short snippet about somebody named Demas separating from Paul. We come to find out that this person that like had worked with Paul and like preached with Paul as part of Paul's crew ended up falling off the faith, so to speak. I want to kind of like touch on and talk about just like that. I think that's like how many verses
Right?
in 2 Timothy?
Like in 2 Timothy 4,
Yeah,
and I think it's just 4 chapters.
just like
2 Timothy 4 chapter.
but like the story about Demas is just like a very very small. But like I want to talk about somebody that's like what would have caused him to what caused him to separate from Paul's crew, and why did that separation like make him lose his faith? How can we learn from him?
Did it say the love of the world?
Yeah, he said because he loved this world, he deserted me, and he has gone.
What does that mean?
Exactly. He love money. He love women.
Yeah.
Like it could be.
Also, is that important? But yeah.
Or maybe it was like he saw Paul suffering so much and it was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of it.
Because like was he persecuted or was I feel like I was reading something about him and so well he's actually mentioned in 3 of Paul's epistles, in Philemon as his fellow worker, in Colossians or like also as his worker, and then in 2 Timothy. This was like when around the time Paul actually died. So he said, for Demas, because he loved this world, he has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. This apparently, according to theologians, they say that Demas was Paul's Judas.
So deserted is a
He implied that like Demas did not want to be, he wanted to become a martyr, so he left. Is that like, is that
Is that a bad thing?
could that be like, yeah, like,
Like, do we want?
because Paul ended up dying
yeah.
like shortly after he left.
How many of us are
Really?
like die for the gospel?
Yeah. And how did Paul
That's a
die?
good
Paul did not die in a nice way.
How many of us are willing to die for the gospel?
Dying what sense?
Oh, Sarah.
Physically, spiritually?
There's a
Physically.
Well, not spiritual, like physically, academically, career.
What do you mean academically, sir?
So let's say because of your faith, you cannot get hired in this country anymore. So you cannot earn a living. Because of your faith, you're kicked out of school because you said something that they disagree with. Because of physical death, I think some people, because they put it so far away from them, they don't think it's happening. But in our present day, there are people that are so job sick. I'll give you an example. My brother went to a Catholic school, and they have rainbow flags everywhere. He went to the priest immediately and he asked the priest, how could the priest let this happen? And he said, if he speaks out, he's losing his job. And if he loses his job, he can't get hired by the Catholic school board, largely the Catholic churches around. His wife and his young child are great. Like his wife stays at home. He needs to feed, take care.
That's a really good example.
If he speaks out, he loses his job. That is death. The closest they can get to in the Western world.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is how I say we should think about it, at least right now.
Girl.
So yeah, if it means losing your job,
Like,
That's one.
I think, yeah. So, both actually are actually correct. I'm not going to say, like, for me personally, I'm working to get to that point because, like, if you think about, like, the apostles, like, and before we will get to some people that actually, like, their salvation story is different, but if you saw Christ and you believed his claims about everything he said about what is going on, like, death is literally the least you can, like, accommodate for that belief. Like, because for them the goal was not even to enjoy life. The goal was to be resurrected like Christ in the second coming. So, or which expect Christ's second coming to take over the world as king ruler. So everything that was going on around them was like, man, like, I can't wait for when he comes back, because, like, when he was here and everything he told us, like, and also think about even Paul, when he was literally going to kill Christians and God literally appears to him and he literally does a U-turn and he's like, it's almost like for that kind of thing, you're already like a career lawyer. You're literally at the top of the Sanhedrin. You have mentors that are like running the Jewish Sanhedrin. That's like, you're supposed to be on this. Like someone was saying on a podcast that the Sanhedrin was like the Supreme Court. You have someone in the Supreme Court mentoring you. So that means your career is set, and you literally come across the person that the Supreme Court at the time doesn't want anyone to believe in, and he starts to believe in him. For him, like, that was probably not even like something that it was even like, it was like, man, like, for me to live is even like Christ. In fact, I gain a lot more, like, dying. So I think I've always thought about it as Christians, like, or me personally, like, getting to a point where, like, I'm not beholden to the world as it wants me to be beholden to. And I think that's what it means by Demas, like, for love the world. It's almost like, man, like, Paul, what you told me about the claims, I believe it, but not as you believe. I'm not willing to give up, like, sort of the comfort I have in the world, right? I'm not willing to give up, like...
his comfort was probably his life.
Yeah, I'm not willing to... I don't know if I believe it that much that I'm going to bet my life against...
But it sounds like Dennis was with Paul for
A while.
So he's seen Paul go through the highs and the lows. So why was he just like,
Maybe just like, one person is enough. It's like, people are like that.
it wasn't like the first time he saw it was like, okay, no, I can't do this. It was like he's seen it. And
Maybe like he got tired.
No, you made a good point out. He had seen it. So Jesus had this parable of the sower, and how he would sow seeds on different grounds. And the part where he talks about he sowed seeds on good ground, and it grew up, but the weeds and thorns grew up with it.
Yeah.
And then the cares of this life and the deceitfulness of riches came in and choked out.
Yeah.
The word was there.
Yeah.
The cares of this life were also.
Yeah.
They took up those nutrients.
And that's what you literally are living in a world. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why a lot of us are doing.
CBH.
Everyone is like, and that's the choke of the, like, 21st or 22nd century. Just, it's not even like the death of you. It's just like like the world has sort of entangled itself that, man, I need to hold on to this, man. This money is almost like life and oxygen right now.
Yeah.
Telling me to give up all of this, it's going to be hard.
it's definitely easier said than than done. But
For
it'd
sure.
be nice to get to that place where it's easier done than said.
And there was this other thing where it also says in the Bible where it would be easier for a rich man
So proceed, there you go.
to enter Kini,
Yeah.
rich man to enter heaven.
The field disciple.
And like, if you want, and the guy was asking, I don't remember, somebody was asking Jesus, like, what should I do to, like, and Jesus said, go and kill the 10 commandments, obedient. And he said, what else? Like, there should be more. He said, go and sell all your possessions, and all of that. Like, I mean,
Sell all your possessions.
It's hard though.
it's very difficult.
It's like the same God who favored you to get all that stuff is the same God that can do it again. So you giving up your possessions isn't like it shouldn't be like I'll never get it back because it wasn't you that brought it in the first place.
Which is how we can even transition to Job and his possessions.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Job is another person.
So
Human, I know. Like so, we all. I think like we're all like getting to the understanding of like the story of Job. Like Job is not Job. Jesus.
Job is Job.
Job did nothing to deserve what he got. He did everything to not to deserve what he got, and unfortunately got everything and more. And like we're all getting to like the understanding where like we now use Job as an example of how to, how to approach God with trials that you go through. But like let's kind of just like start like think about like Job's story in general, like from Job's perspective, him knowing that he didn't do anything to deserve like everything he got, and then like people around him, everybody around him like trying to gaslight him.
Gaslight is the right word.
It's thinking that he did something, and then now him still being bold enough and like sure enough in where he stood and in his own like righteousness, really, that he actually did not do anything to deserve it. Can like any of us?
But at this point in Job's story, did doubts not creeping, like towards the ending? Or was it just
I don't think Job
Like-
was doubted.
Doubted that what?
like, obviously actually did something? Was this? I think was it Job's story? It was
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Joe probably he was adamant about it, and then second guessed it, and then he was like
Yes.
adamant about it. Like he went to like the poems are like just like there were a lot of roller coasters. And,
Like with Job's story, the God doesn't necessarily always have to have a why behind the things that he does.
because it's not a stretch to anybody.
And that's like as a human being, as with the type of person I am, that's like one of the most scary things I can say to me.
And that's the thing about trials and tribulations. I feel like every trial would have a timeline. Like I don't think you can ever be in this life and everything from beginning to end.
And destroyer.
Like every trial.
From where you're born to your trial, you're born to trial.
Good times last forever. You know that one that said tough time will never last.
Tough people last.
People like, well, good times last forever.
I mean, like when you die, hopefully.
that's a greater
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you die when you wake up. That's when the time doesn't end.
yeah.
But yeah, like it's like being a Christian and living in a broken world is like wrestling daily with the fact that you will encounter tribulations like of who's making it somebody else has nothing to do with you, but is affecting you because you live in this world. So then how do you now, like, we know the story of Job and how he like lived through it, but like if that was like you, for example,
Yeah.
like is that like a day-to-day thing that you would, because like for me I think about like if day after day, like literally, like it was like one servant to come before the first servant finished talking, another one is coming. Oh, your kids have died. Oh, your cattle has died. Oh, house has burnt down. And then it's like people just keep coming, and it's like one thing after another, and then it's like for me, I can see myself just like collapsing and just being like, okay,
Yeah.
I thought so.
this is it. Like I'll just.
But that was his reaction pretty much, when he just put like ash on his
But I
body.
think it's so interesting how he was like, because I feel like if that happened to me, I'll literally go to God and be like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I'm so sorry, God. Have mercy, forgive me. Even if there wasn't a particular sin that came to mind, I would be so sure that I'd done something wrong today.
Job's one wasn't even from God.
Yeah, and God just allowed it to happen.
And Job was so confident in his
Yeah.
that he didn't do anything wrong. And I think that's such a testament to his relationship to God. Like he knew exactly where he stood with God.
Yeah.
Unwavering. So when the trials came, he wasn't like,
Oh, what have I done?
yeah.
And God didn't really give an answer. Like even when God finally spoke at the end,
Yeah.
he just talked about, well, I'm God. Like that was it. He was
Like no, he said I'm God, but then what he also said was like very like interesting to me. He said, "This world is a dangerous place. This world is good. It is dangerous. Like it's beautiful. It is dangerous." And like that, and Jesus even said the same thing. Like the fact that you follow me doesn't mean that you will not get persecuted, and it's not like your life will be all rosy. It's like it's because you follow me that you have a hope in that persecution. But then, like again, I keep saying this thing: knowing it is so different from like actually like living it out and like experiencing it, because like yeah, it's. Job's one was not, it wasn't from God. It wasn't, I don't know necessarily if it was like a test of faith, really. But like, it's just like an unfortunate reality of living in this world.
Because unbelievers also get trials and tribulations. But
Yeah.
I think I was talking to Ori one day. We're talking about how like if we didn't have God, like would we even be alive? And we're like, what do people like? What do
people with like,
What do they do?
What do they do? Like crumbling down. Like who did they look up to? Like what did they do? So I think
It's hard.
I don't even know. I don't know what they do. So God is there.
Rely on their family.
But just having God there to go like, God help me. Like just having that God help me. Like that privilege of just being able to say God help me. God, I need strength. It's such a
Because like there are like days where I'm at work and my brain is not working. And like I'm literally just like, God help me. And then it just somehow starts working.
yeah.
Okay, so there is I guess like we can get into some of the questions I wrote in here. One that kind of like relates to trials is like how can we set expectations for trials for like people that need to set expectations, like
Set it to end at this point.
so like for example for like King Nebuchadnezzar, for him as soon as he surrendered, somehow like reason came back and he was able to go back to his house.
Okay, or repeat.
So like when you're in the middle of a trial, is it like a good expectation to have that like when you surrender yourself to God, that is when everything will turn around?
yeah, it's just how long it takes to break it. Not let it break it down. How long it takes for you to realize or
Yourself.
come to the end of yourself. That's a very perfect way to put it.
With the word.
Okay.
Yeah, come to the end of yourself. How long is it take you to come to the end of yourself? And then, because I think Paul also like when you're talking about expectations, I don't know if expectation is the right word, but Paul talks about in I think he says in riches and in empty, I have learned to be content. That's for I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So not necessarily expect. It's just like I've learned that when things are up, I'm fine. When things are down, I'm fine. Like as far as I have Christ strengthening me, I can do it. I can do both trials. I can do good times. So that's Paul saying it. I'm not being in this situation where I can also write that and say I've learned to. But I think it's an expectation we can try to learn, like use that period to learn how to depend more on God. in those hard times.
So instead of like focusing on the trial itself, you're focusing on God.
Yeah, focusing on just how you yourself are responding and to God in that season, and maybe learning on how to just rely on God and just like be a lot more like vocal with your faith and more aggressive with your faith in Him, and say, look, I'm just trusting you to carry me through this season and guide me this season.
Yeah.
And also, it's probably something to learn when you're in good times also, so that habit sort of goes before it gets a little bad.
Good times.
Okay. Another one that I had is another two that I had.
I like how you use it. I don't know. Oh, no.
So one is, I don't know if we've actually already answered this question, but like one is, are trials necessary? As a believer, persecution is like not a thing that you can avoid, and trials that impact you without you doing, you can't, like, are unavoidable because of the state of the world. But like, are tribulations and trials necessary?
I would say yes, they are, because they're just such good mediums for growth in our faith and just learning more about God. If things were good all the time, let me speak for myself. If my life is good. But if things were like rosy all the time, I definitely would not have the relationship that I have right now with God. And one thing, I know, you know how like when you're praying for something and in that waiting period, you're really on it, you're praying. And then when you get it, it's almost as if you forget, like, what. So I'm like, imagine if my life were just always that was like,
Be like,
yeah, I don't think I'd be as close as I am. So for me, it's necessary for me. And I think it's necessary for everyone too, but yeah. And what do you think?
No, and I think you said something about the world being dangerous, right? And trials, that danger is a medium for God to use. I don't think it means God can only use trials,
Fair.
but human beings are so comfortable. Like, one of the downfall of most powerful men, women, civilization, just comfort, right? See, David, when he's comfortable, he's literally killing his best friend, sleeping with the wife, and like crazy. When you're comfortable,
oh, I'm bored.
think about when he was running away. Every time he was, oh God, this, oh God, this. But the moment everything is like feast on, is like birth. So like, or just in general, like, or when the early church was also comfortable, they didn't even think about the Gentiles. They thought about like preaching to the Jews. Once there was, everybody's like going to this Gentile nation, going to this, like, expanding the gospel. Not like God brought about that, but God was able to use that persecution trial that was like placed on them to like, look, maybe God actually wants us to be in Antioch. God wants us to be in Thessalonica.
And to have, so before we wrap up, so the last question I actually had was very interesting, because right now we're talking obviously in the context of like Christians and believers, and we believe that trials are important for us to grow. King Nebuchadnezzar, I guess, is like an example of a trial of like somebody with no faith or little to no faith experiencing a trial. So do we believe that trials, tribulations, breakdowns are only for believers, God's people, to grow them in faith?
That can go in reverse.
Say what?
There are people that have left the faith
Because of trials.
Your mother is sick. Oh, it's not you. Someone's mom. They are not.
Yeah.
Another person,
My enemies.
person A.
Someone's mom is sick with cancer, and then this person is praying. The whole church is praying.
100%.
The mom passes away. Because of that, the dad goes into a drinking binge, and now he's absent from the family. And then this person has to assume responsibility over the siblings, and the siblings are now acting out because there are no parents. Like, that's a Job story.
Yeah.
And it is very easy for that person to say,
Help with.
where is God? why wasn't he here when my mom was died? Why wasn't he here when my dad was acting out and now my siblings are losing their way and he's not here? Maybe he does not even exist. Or if he exists,
He doesn't care.
One thing about trials and tribulation is that there's always a change that occurs, whether it's a good change or a bad change.
Facts.
But it'll always be a medium
Something
for
would
change.
happen.
Like you can't
Yeah.
be the same person going in and coming out, and
Yeah.
we will all be better.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
If there's any posture to keep in trials, is rejoicing, because I think there's a passage that talks about trials breed. There's a whole evolution of trials that breeds faith.
the man that endures temptation, for when he is tried, he shall
You
receive
shall receive the crown of life. So
the God has promised to
Very
those who love him.
yes.
James 1:12.
Yeah. And they rejoice when ye fall into diverse trials and temptations. So
I mean,
That's good.
also know that God won't give us anything we can't. Won't give us more than what we can handle.
maybe I should start submitting.
Some of us can handle a lot.
Just that.
Somebody said, God, I'm a wicked soldier.
Big.
Yeah, this has been so helpful for me, like, and so informative, because it's like trials are not fun.
Trials are bad.
Trials are not fun. They are hard, especially in the moment. It can literally feel like this is the end of the world. Almost because it is the end of the world. Like it's the end of, like you kind of said, it's the end of something. And at the end of, like on the other side of the trial, like you are a new person. And whatever happens on the other side, fortunately, unfortunately, maybe this is good news for you. It's within like your control. It is your prerogative to either hold on to God or not. But then, like, I think as Christians, we're in an exceptionally like good position because we have God, and we are also in an exceptionally good position because God is a God that wants you to come as you are, and like with your anger, with your pain, with your struggles. He doesn't want you to like package yourself. Even if the trials and tribulations are because of your own doing, like he doesn't want you to wallow in your guilt, because like your sins have already been paid for. So Jesus is already in heaven advocating for you. He's already interceding for you. So there is really no need to like sit in guilt. But then as human beings, like God knows who he made. And God has been like with the story of humanity since the beginning. And so he has been with all the evolutions. He knows us so much more than we know ourselves. Like he knows our like innate nature so much more than we know who we are. And he has provided a way for us to overcome our flesh. So I hope that's like encouraging to somebody.
So sad. Aww.
It's supposed to be the most.
We thank God, man.
So,
Yeah, this has been so fun. Thank you so much, Ife, for joining us
course.
today.
thank you,
And
Ife.
David.
Thank you, David.
Thanks for having us.
Lemon will be a more common occurrence, so no thanks there.
I don't have much choice, yo. You actually didn't forgive me, choice to say this.
All right, this has been another episode of Is There Room for... Sorry, and I said make sure you like,
Comment.
Subscribe.
and I'll see you next month.
Bye, y'all.